What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about an early version of Predator 2. One that would have been radically different from the final movie that we eventually got to see, but still something that I'm sure a lot of die-hard fans would have been into. So in 1987, John McTiernan released what many believe to be one of the most iconic movies in Arnold Schwarzenegger's career with Predator. A film that, in my opinion, is so recognizable for the guy that only the actor's roles as Conan and the Terminator rival it. So naturally, you'd think that they wanted to include him in the sequel, which of course they did, and they even had him planned for the movie far before Danny Glover got involved, but things started to change after a meeting with Arnold that revolved around one specific topic. Now, most of this information is actually going to be coming from a recent Stephen Hopkins interview. Anyways, the movie was originally supposed to open on a scene of people playing golf. A helicopter would land and a guy would get out of it before saying something like, "He's back." That's when Arnold would turn around at the golf course, revealing a scar across his face and gray hair, which I guess was supposed to lead into him teaming up with Danny Glover to take the new Predator down. Stephen Hopkins, the director of the movie, who got hired based off of his work for A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, by the way, says that he thought that both he and Arnie got on fine when discussing his role for the film. Unfortunately, that didn't stop the action star from leaving the project. Back in the 90s, it was said that Arnold dropped out to do Kindergarten Cop instead, but in that recent interview, Stephen Hopkins brings up an idea that James Cameron may have been the one that talked him out of doing it. You see, at the time, Cameron wanted Arnold to go with him to make Terminator 2, and Arnold ended up picking that over Predator 2. That being said, one of the producers for the movie actually has another story that seems to be the main factor that caused Arnie to not return to the role. John Davis has gone on record saying, quote, "We should have had Arnold in the movie. The deal broke over $250,000, which is a shame." The story goes that Jim and John Thomas, the writers of the first Predator movie and Predator 2, wound up writing a really cool script that had Arnold in the main lead, teaming up with Patrick Swayze originally, believe it or not, but the head of 20th Century Fox wouldn't budge on the financial numbers behind the film, and neither would Arnie. Steven Seagal was going to be in the film after Swayze decided not to do Predator 2, following an injury that he apparently sustained while making Roadhouse, and Arnold left the project, leaving Danny Glover to fill in for the big role. Now get this, a few pieces of trivia and even some information in articles on Predator 2 state that Schwarzenegger's character would eventually get retooled into Peter Keyes, Gary Busey's character that's hunting down the Predator in the film, which, if true, makes a lot of sense because Arnold's character of Dutch from the first movie looks like he was being set up to be some sort of predator hunter in the original script. Teaming up with Danny Glover's Harrigan in order to stop any new aliens from coming down to Earth and hunting people, this tracks well with what everyone has said about Arnold's role in the film being someone that gets notified about the Predator's return and eventually working with the new hero. In fact, one of Gary Busey's lines makes it seem like there's even a fun little link to Arnie's films that may have been originally intended for him in that movie.
I'll be back. I'll be back, Benny. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Guess who's back?
Now personally, guys, I really like Predator 2. I think it's a solid movie, and while not as good as the original for a lot of people, myself included, I think that the middle portion of the film is honestly the most Predator movie we've ever got. And I think it's pretty awesome for that. I doubt they'd honestly have killed Arnold off like they did Peter Keyes in the final cut of the film, if he, actually committed to doing it, but still, just the fact that we were so close to having this movie made as the follow-up to the original Predator is pretty wild for a lot of fans. I mean, had Arnold actually shown up and been given a substantial role in Predator 2, there's no way people would have disliked it as much when it came out. And with Arnold being at the peak of his powers with movies like Kindergarten Cop and Total Recall being released in 1990, alongside his version of Predator 2, it would have made way more money. I guess all of this is more than likely true in the end. Usually you only see people bring up the $250,000 salary dispute, but I'm sure a lot of it is tied together. Maybe one day Arnold sat down and said, alright, either I go off with James Cameron, the guy that just did Aliens and The Abyss, to make Terminator 2, or I go off with the dude that just made A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 to do Predator 2 for less money. I mean, I can see how this all fell apart. Anyways, guys, those are all just my own thoughts and opinions on the information that's out there, but what do you think? What are your thoughts on Predator 2, and how do you think the movie would have been received had Arnie actually come back back to do it. I've given my thoughts, but hey, whatever your own happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below.